Greetings. Today I'm talking about retro motorcycles, and why for me they are the most attractive motorcycles on the market today. Full disclosure, it's November 2024 and I'm turning 55 in January, and I have been riding since 1986. To some of you that means I'm a spry young man. To some of others, I'm the granddad type who should sit on a rocking chair while I tell my stories of years gone by. There are a lot of interesting motorcycle designs out there, and some of them are absolutely beautiful. I'm fully aware that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. When I look at the Super Naked, I feel like I'm looking at a praying mantis robot transformer disguised as a motorcycle. To some, they see sleek, modern, angular designs that say speed and power. Some historic motorcycles, I think, have a universal appeal. The Vincent Black Shadow, the 1955 Indian Chief, the 1915 Harley-Davidson Model 11F, and pretty much any Brau Superior from 1919 to 1940. One of the first motorcycles that really stood out to me as innovative and forward-thinking was the Honda Interceptor, which came on the scene in 1983, the same year as what I thought would be a dream motorcycle to own, the BMW K100 RS. The first big bike, I'm doing that in quotes, in perspective, this time frame being the mid to late 1980s. 400cc and below were considered small displacement, 401 to 699cc were considered mid displacement, and 700 to 1000cc were considered big bikes, with the American Cruisers being the only bikes regularly to exceed 1000 cc's. The first big bike I owned, now that you have the context, was a 1972 BMW R75/5. Not the toaster tank variant, though. Torpedo headlamp, big boxer twin, shaft drive, drum brakes, looked every bit the part of a classic motorcycle. My grandfather, on my mother's side, owned a BMW and toured Germany prior to World War II. I had the benefit of parents who understood that motorcycles were in our blood, so to speak, and my three brothers and I all had motorcycles in our teen years. Basic, affordable transportation with cheap insurance and great gas mileage. Many of my friends were not so lucky. Fast forward to 2024, and many changes have happened. The chopper craze, the immensely wide rear tires, the big wheel front tires, the modern features like insect-inspired design cues, every expensive electronic nanny available, including self-balancing and self-riding motorcycles, to Apple-inspired iRobot-looking variants. TFT displays with infotainment systems have become a regular addition to touring motorcycles, and for me, the last thing riders need is something to distract them from looking down the road. The retro motorcycle trend began quietly, first in 1989 with the Honda CB500, and then in 1999 Kawasaki W650, which came complete with kickstart, rear drum brake, and carburetors. My favorite modern retro is my 2020 Kawasaki W800, for many reasons that I cover on my channel regularly. Feel free to watch the W800 playlist. I love all modern retros, with some that really stood out. The R9T, the R1200, the Z900, Z650 RS, the Moto Guzzi V7, Royal Enfield Classic Series, the Bonneville variants, and there are a lot of them out there. I'm not a fan of the XSR models from Yami, but some very much are. People have different opinions on what a retro bike should be, and that's why there are so many different kinds of modern retro bikes. The pervasive theme is classic styling, round headlamps, gas tank being a gas tank and not an airbox cover, battery accessible under the seat, the fewest amount of electronic gadgetry to meet current safety standards with analog gauges. There are a few things to go wrong on a modern retro compared to a sport bike, for example. And of the things that can go wrong, more of them are things the rider can do in their own garage without a supercomputer to walk them through the diagnosis. Do some of the modern retros come with all the electronics? Yeah, some of them do. But they lose favor with me due to being excessively complicated, and as much as I don't mind a TFT or digital display on a retro bike, I prefer the analog clocks to a screen. Where the difference between modern retro and the modern bike really hits me is out on the road. I get all the magic and nostalgia of riding a classic bike without having to be a skilled roadside mechanic and carry a comprehensive tool bag and spare parts in the event of a breakdown, which I had done with my 1984 R100 RTP, as I covered 270,000 miles on that bike in some very remote areas. That magic and nostalgia of creating a classic bike is the primary motivation for the Kawasaki W series, being my favorite, which has expanded to include a small displacement model in the USA now, so way to go, Kawasaki. Classic bikes didn't make 100 horsepower. They didn't do 0 to 60 in sub 3 seconds. It was an achievement to be able to get them to go 100 miles per hour by modifying them, the cafe racer scene. They were air-cooled, they were easy to work on, and they provided a sensation of freedom to experience the elements in a way an automobile just couldn't connect the driver with. The W series captures that perfectly. If you are a person who wants a wolf in sheep's clothing, there are many incredible quick modern retros that break 100 horsepower, do that 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, that are water cooled, that vary from inline V or boxer design, including 4s even. In my youth, there was a family member in Germany who put a Porsche 911 engine in a Volkswagen Beetle. Definitely a wolf in sheep's clothing. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, so I definitely get the appeal. What I love about modern retros is that they connect to the past in a relatable way that includes modern safety features. For me, that's the best of both worlds. Keep the shiny side up, the rubber side down, and keep it wheel.